We're going to talk about some ghosts, right?
So folks, Packer Blitz fans, I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually a host for a paranormal podcast called Dairyland Frights. And
Frights.
very good. And that podcast is about the paranormal, ghost, a lot of things dealing with mystery and creepy stuff. So it's a lot of fun. I love doing both podcasts. I love doing Packers. So my love for the Packers and paranormal are great. So what I wanted to talk about really, really quickly is people don't understand about the Packers and the area of Green Bay. Did you know, Andy, that a gentleman whose name was John Jacob Astor the Fourth founded part of Green Bay, and he started framing the city's current downtown on top of a native burial ground. So there are a number of businesses, homes, different places that are haunted and full of ghosts. So, but what I wanted to talk about a little bit, the people always ask me, reached out to me, and they say, "Well, Lambeau Field's been there, for a very, very long time. Is it haunted?" So the question is, or the answer is, I should say, yes, it is. There have been spirits of Vince Lombardi. And what people have said with Vince Lombardi is one story was a gentleman went into the bathroom and he was washing his hands early in the morning. I guess it was one of the custodial workers. And he looked over and he saw this older gentleman with this suit on and a fedora, and he was looking in the mirror and talking. And the guy was like, well, wait a minute, this is really early in the morning. How'd this guy get in here? I don't recognize him. So he leaned over to this guy and said, "Hey, you can't be here." And when he leaned over, the gentleman just disappeared. And when he went back out of the bathroom, he went and if you've been to Lambeau, and if you haven't, please go. There's tons of pictures of Lombardi. He came out of the bathroom and he looked and he said, "Hey, that was the guy." And he didn't know much about Lombardi at that time. I guess he was a newer guy who was just working. This is a long time ago, this story. And he was like, "That's him. That's the guy I saw in the bathroom." My other favorite story is actually two favorite really quick stories is, again, with Lombardi, is this kid was with his mom and they were doing the tour and everything. And he said, again, I wanted to go into a room where supposedly Lombardi would do a lot of his thinking before the game. And now it is actually, they made it Lombardi's office. So if you go on the Green Bay tour, now it's Lombardi's office and you can sit at actual Vince Lombardi's desk, which I did sit in his chair at his desk, and they have all of it laid out. It's brilliant. It's a really cool tour. Well, anyway, the little boy went underneath the desk and he was just sitting there. And all of a sudden, someone sat in the chair. And he was like, "Oh, it's probably my mom or somebody. I got to get out underneath there." So the tour had already gone on, and the little boy came out from underneath the desk and he looked, and there was this older gentleman in a suit, and he just looked at the little boy and he smiled. And the little boy said, "Oh, hello." And the person just who was sitting in the chair just smiled again. And so he said, "Well, I better, he heard his mom calling. He said, better go and, join the group and stuff." So this little boy had no idea about Vince Lombardi, and they're going on the tour and they're talking about Vince Lombardi. And the little boy grabs his mom's hand and says, "That's the guy at the desk I just saw." And his mom was like, "Yeah, sure. Oh, okay. Come." He goes, "No, I really saw it." And I think those two stories, I believe, like I said, in the paranormal, why wouldn't Vince Lombardi haunt Lambeau Field. He worked there tirelessly. That was really his first home. He was rarely home. If you watch some documentaries about Lombardi or read books about it, which I have, I've read all his books and seen all his documentaries. The guy was a workaholic, and that's kind of a shame because that led to his death, which was really terrible to hear. Like, he got colon cancer because he kept working and he never got it checked out. And that's how Vince Lombardi died, which is a shame. So, yes, there's been other two hauntings of Curly Lambeau where people have said they've gotten there early in the morning, like custodial guys, and have seen like a shape that looks to them like Curly Lambeau walking around the field. So, yes, it is haunted. They actually do ghost tours, not of Lambeau, but of Green Bay. I thought that was really interesting. But my favorite story, really quickly, Andy, is this. So, everybody knows Aaron Rodgers took ayahuasca. Now, the thing is, when you take ayahuasca, it has lingering effects. So, this is a true story. I should have put the link in there. I'll put the link in our episode notes where Aaron Rodgers got freaked out and ran out of Lambeau. And you say, okay, what happened? So, Aaron Rodgers saw what in the paranormal is called the Hatman. So the Hatman is you have to watch some horror movies, I guess, if you have an understanding. But basically, it's this tall, slender, creepy, gaunt-looking guy with this big hat, and he has like usually he'll have like a cane with him, and he's wearing this dark suit. So Aaron Rodgers said he was late in the training room. And he was getting ready to go, and he said all of a sudden he looks out, and the lights start flickering in the training room, and he sees the Hat Man, and he's holding the dead rabbit in his hand, and Aaron Rodgers just booked it out of there, ran out of there, got in his car, took off. And he has said that, like I said, I'll put the story in there. It's a very interesting story. And he says from time to time he has visions of this Hat Man, which, by the way, the visions of Hat Man is an urban legend. And if you do have visions of this evil looking man, you're usually through some type of stress, or maybe you're doing some type of narcotics. It usually will not appear to you if you're like in a great mood, like Andy was in his spa and having a great time. But if you do see it, I would highly suggest, getting some help, because it usually has to do with some type of psychiatric break or some type of mental issue you are having. But those are some of the stories, some of the spooky stories. I will put those links out there on this episode. You can read through them. But Andy, my good friend, is a skeptic. So what do you think about the paranormal, Andy? What is your feeling about it?
Yeah, I don't know if I call myself a skeptic.
Okay.
Here's some of my thoughts on paranormal activity. If you're all right with that,
Okay.
I'll mention some of those things.
Yeah.
We already
Yeah.
talked
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
we already talked about Sasquatch. We already talked about Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
believe in that. A buddy of mine who probably doesn't listen to this podcast, I'll have to tell him. I'll mention his name. His name's Rob. And he mentioned to me he was out deer hunting and saw Bigfoot. So I was just joking around with him. I do truly believe in this creature, and the possibility of this creature does exist. And for him to say something like that, and he was very, very consistent, and he said it kind of, again, scared the bejesus out of him. He might be a great guest for a future podcast, maybe for Dairyland Frights. But I did want to mention that, and so I do believe in that, even though I joke about it with people. I kind of do believe in it, and I believe that's again a possibility. I believe that there are things that just cannot be explained. Since I was just in New Mexico and near Area 51, I will say that
Right.
humans cannot be so self-centered and egotistical, well, they can be, to believe that we are
Mhm,
the only
mhm.
living beings in the entire multitude of galaxies in the universe.
Right.
Logic dictates, I'll take that from Spock, that there is
Fuck.
something else out there in the cosmos. Are there aliens? I believe yes, there are. Are we the only humanoid life form? No, I don't believe that for a second.
Mhm.
And so, who or what is considered an alien? That's up for debate, whatever. But I do believe in that as well. I believe that there is a higher plane of existence, or alternate realms that we cannot yet comprehend or understand. So that kind of has to do again with ghosts, right? A little bit. So
Yes.
I
Right.
do believe in ghosts. I believe I haven't encountered one yet, but I will say that I have experienced things that would send chills down your spine. So, but
Nice.
I think in this episode, because we're going to run way over, I won't, talk about that. But it's very personal to me and happened to me. And yeah, it just was something that was, um, you know, very spiritual. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm. Nice.
And so I have been touched a little bit by that, but have not seen a ghost. Have not seen a ghost,
Okay.
but I do believe. So
Nice.
if you're under the
Nice.
impression I didn't, John, I apologize
Yes.
for that, but I do believe.
Yeah, you seem more
I
of a
might be a little
skeptic.
bit more skeptical. I'm a little bit maybe
Okay,
more
right.
skeptical than you are on that front,
Yeah,
but I
sure.
do believe that there is that possibility,
Okay,
legitimately that
awesome.
possibility. So
So that is the spooky part of the episode here for Packers Blitz. So